Well, good morning. Let's see if the camera lasts today. It's okay the last couple of times I used it. I just had this period where it would just go off for unknown reasons, and I think I speculated last time that it might have been because of the Elgato Cam Link, of which I can't find a newer, more better version. Which is okay. This has actually been working pretty well. G'day morning. It's morning. G'day Simon. Thanks for joining. I'm deliberately like dishevelled. We are at 7 a.m. here. I'm in a real routine now that I'm back home. Well, been back home for a while, of just getting up at 5 o'clock every morning, having my coffee, going for about a 5K walk, coming home, and then it's like 7 o'clock and I've already done all of my, low-hanging fruit emails. I've had some exercise, I've had some coffee. Happy days. Been down the beach. It's nice. Aaron, like me, welcome. You've all got crowns. That's cool. I still don't know exactly what the crowns are, but they look cool. That's crown. Top fans. Oh, there you go. Apparently, Aaron is winning. So well done, mate. Good job. All right, let me jump into it. We've got a bunch of stuff on the agenda, a bunch of other random stuff too that I didn't put on there, but I'm looking at, I've had this Raspberry Pi driving my own personal have I been pwned sock on the wall, Security Operations Center sock, on the wall for, I want to say near a year now. It runs Grafana, and I've had all these graphs, and I had an old 75-inch LG TV, which was just sitting around after we'd put a projector where we used to have it. So I'd had that mounted to the wall just to sort of see how it looked. And it was awesome. And the Grafana graphs were so cool. And it has been so handy, just normally I'm sitting here, here's all my work and stuff, just to glance over there and see like database utilization or see outstanding tickets or things like that. And it was so cool. We eventually got to the point where Charlotte said, I want one too. So I'm like, okay, well, I had a spare monitor. So I set a spare monitor. I've got another Raspberry Pi. I set one up for her. She does a lot of the ticketing and stuff like that. Set all that up, and that looked cool. And now as we're doing renovations and things in the house, we're getting some new TVs in different areas. So I got an 85-inch Samsung The Frame Pro TV and got it mounted there. Now, can't show you what's on it at the moment because it does have some customer names and so on, but I'll do a blog post about this later on. And it looks freaking epic because it fills out this wall. It's in portrait mode. I'm managing to run this at full res, which is like 3850 or something by 2000 something or other, which is way more. I don't even know what res I was running that LG under. I couldn't run it full res, so it wasn't particularly sharp. But this is really, really sharp. And being the bigger TV, I've got more graphs and more stuff. I've actually got a bunch of blank space. So Stefan, who may be listening into this, Stefan is doing more orchestration using OTel to feed more data from Have I Been Pwned, combination of Azure stuff, Zendesk stuff, Cloudflare stuff, into Grafana so that we can put more graphs and more charts up. But this looks really, really cool at the moment. And I will show you later on. I'll finish it. I'll get the right charts up. I'll do the blog post about how to set up the Pi, put everything in kiosk mode. Yeah, I'm just happy with it. I'm very happy with it. Aaron says, Troy, have you seen the Southwark episode where the internet breaks? So funny. No. South Park. I can imagine that. Thomas, evening, Troy. Coming off the back of a 12-hour, 24,000 step shift today. Wow. What are you doing to do 24,000 steps? That's a lot. Croaky. Limey says, kind of cool in Sydney. Well, where are we? We're on the Gold Coast. It's 18. I had a very light jumper when we were out walking. I had to take it off. That's our problems here. Thomas says, an 85-inch TV mounted portrait sounds like quite something. Yeah, it's really cool. And the nice thing about the frame TVs, excuse me, is they're very, very thin. So it really just disappears into the wall. And it's a dark wall as well. So it looks really cool. It's a little bit mesmerizing, if I'm honest. All right, let's do other stuff. Sponsor this week is 1Password, my longest, most prevalent sponsor. Extended access management is securing every sign-in for every app on every device. We set up this sponsorship earlier in the year. That now links through to Trellica by 1Password, another 1Password acquisition, discovering SaaS applications, automating lifecycle management, and optimizing SaaS spend, which is a lot of important stuff when you're there in the enterprise. SaaS sprawl is a term they've used here. We used to have, I guess I would call SaaS sprawl maybe a close cousin to Shadow IT. Now, if you're not familiar with Shadow IT, there you go, there's the first sentence here. I didn't plan it this way, honestly. SaaS sprawl creates gaps in visibility, access, and spend. Security gaps from Shadow IT. Good one, Troy. Unmanaged app access and inconsistent lifecycle management leave organizations exposed to security vulnerabilities, while unused licenses and redundant apps drive up spend. Back in my corporate day, which is now long behind me, Shadow IT was one of the biggest challenges we had to deal with, because people would go out, people within, this is when I was at Pfizer, big pharma company, people would go out and they would solve their IT problems themselves, which was very ingenious, but we ended up with stuff everywhere. And back in the day, it was mostly things like access databases. These days, of course, there is SaaS products everywhere. And this idea of SaaS sprawl, where an organization, usually through good intention, goes out and creates different assets in different places that the security folks and the tech folks just have absolutely no idea what's there. So creating visibility into that. I like the angle of driving down cost too. That makes sense, because you end up buying a whole bunch of different things in different places, and it's in different people's budgets, and it's a mess. It's a problem that needs solving. Thank you, 1Password, for that today. Thomas works in student accommodation. Students arriving tomorrow. Okay, right. So this is your walking. Wow, yeah. I'm heading to the Gold Coast for midterm break in about 7 days. A little nervous since I'm going to skydive. I have not been skydiving. I'd do it more just for, I would think of it as an amusement park ride. I often have this discussion with the kids about literally like amusement park rides, or we went hot air ballooning in Dubai in December, and Charlotte kind of freaked out a bit for various reasons. Might have been all the wind going sideways. But it's like, it's one of these things where you know it's going to be a thrill, but you also know that it is a very, very predictable outcome. It's not like going motor racing, where it's like if you screw this up, you will have really, really bad consequences. Almost nothing bad ever happens when you're skydiving. It's fine. All right. I thought we'd kick off with Park Mobile, because I lolled a lot when I saw this. Let's talk about these guys. As you may recall, Park Mobile had a big data breach. Let's have a look at what Have I Been Pwned says about Park Mobile. Park Mobile was a few years ago. Here we go. We'll drop that down there in the comments for anyone wanting to follow along at home. Park Mobile, 21 million accounts, March 2021. Park Mobile suffered a data breach, 21 million impacted data, email addresses, names, phone numbers, vehicle license plates, and passwords stored as bcrypt hashes. The following month, the data appeared on public hacking forum, where it was extensively redistributed. So business as usual in data breach land, which brings us through to the email a Park Mobile customer sent me the other day. And I only screen capped part of it. And I think it's worth reading this short bit, because it is, for me, it's kind of entertaining. I'll explain why I think it's entertaining in a moment. Dear customer, we're reaching out regarding a recent class action settlement involving Park Mobile. The guy must have got this, read that first sentence and gone, oh, this is going to be good. If you are receiving this email, you are a member of the class. As part of the agreed resolution, you are entitled to receive a benefit. Like, so far, so good, right? You're going to get free money for having your data taken and investing whatever effort was required in order to join this class action. A benefit in the form of a discount code for use within the Park Mobile app. It's already starting to sound more shit, isn't it? This is so lawyer written. No court ever found Park Mobile liable for anything. Rather, this settlement was reached to allow the company to continue focusing on providing excellent services to its customers. What? I'm not trying to remember what actually happened in this breach other than 21 million customer records. I linked through to a Krebs on security story here. Someone is selling the data. How did it happen? A March 26 security notice. March 26 security notice does not appear to be linked to other portions. All right, not immediately clear. Do they? Okay. Update security notification. Now, so we'll drop this in the chat as well. So this is their disclosure notice. I'm just wondering what actually happened, because the bit here about no court ever found Park Mobile liable for anything, my immediate interpretation of that was it didn't go to a trial because they've reached a settlement beforehand. Now, it doesn't matter how innocent or how guilty you are. If it doesn't go to a trial, there's never going to be guilt. So it's kind of like we bought our way out of this, which is what happens, pre-trial settlements. But it is hard to imagine you have a 21 million record data breach and no accountability. And inevitably they knew there would be accountability because otherwise you wouldn't settle. Third party, I think, was the word that was used there. Huh. It's always a third party, isn't it? Just going back to the first notice. We recently came aware of a cybersecurity incident. This is March 2021. Incident linked to a vulnerability in a third-party software that we use. Ever heard that phrase, you can't outsource accountability? You can outsource your ticketing system or your sales pipeline system, but you're still accountable when it's your data. Meanwhile, we have taken additional precautionary steps since learning of the incident, including eliminating the third-party vulnerability, maintaining our security. It actually reads like a vulnerability in a product in their software, because they're not really saying a third-party service, are they? And then if I look at the other instances here, third-party software product we use. Now there was www.parkmobilesettlement.com. Is that still there? If you're an individual whose personal information was impacted by the March, a class action settlement may affect your rights. Now, just before we go down the last little bit of the money that Park Mobile customers are actually getting, let's just go back and look again. What's in this data? Email addresses, names, phone numbers, license plates, decrypted passwords. The same stuff that's in a gazillion other data breaches. I mean, this is not, and I'm not trying to downplay the seriousness of data breaches. It is kind of my thing, like to work with data breaches, but it's not any legal definition of sensitive data. It's not sexuality, political affiliation, religion, health, anything like that. It's really pretty generic data. And the passwords were stored in what we would consider best practice as well in terms of bcrypt hashes. It's a bit of a, like in the spectrum of severity of data breaches, it's down the bottom end. So how much money is that data worth? You are eligible for up to a $1. I assume that's American dollars. Now, in fairness, that is more like $1.50 Australian, to be applied to Park Mobile's service fees. Now, you can't spend it all at once. The code provides a 25 cent, not percent, cent, a 25 cent discount on Park Mobile service fees, and may be used up to 4 times, and of course up to 25 cents, use up to 4 times, there's your $1, For a total discount of $1, the code will expire on October 8, 2026. So you've got to go and get parking if you're part of this in order to cash in. Unless you're in California. For residents of California, the code will not expire. The code will only work for accounts associated with email addresses that are in the class. Now, what were you hoping for when you joined this class action? Honest question. And that's okay. I'm saying it, I guess, rhetorically. But when someone was like, "Let us join this class action. Let's screw these guys. Let's get them. Let me get compensation for the hurt and the pain and the loss of my email address and my name being exposed." Were you thinking $1 would do it? In 4 lots of 25 cents used by October next year, up to. Like it is a ridiculous amount of money that's clearly just part of a settlement. And it does make you wonder who did make money out of this. What do you reckon? Who made money out of this class action? I think we all know who made money. It wasn't the claimants. It definitely wasn't Park Mobile, because this would have cost them a lot of money. Now, up to $1 million, up to $1 with 21 million people there, you'd have to think that they've obviously done the maths and gone, well, if we take that out of future revenue, and then you won't have everybody using the credit either, and then they won't be able to use it all by October the 8th. So really, that's not the money, but I wonder how much the lawyers got out of that, and I wonder how much, and this brings me to my point and why I'm so upset about this. I wonder how much Park Mobile had to pay the lawyers. Now, I've not seen the details anywhere of exactly what this flaw was and how reasonable in the spectrum of things it was to be breached. And what I mean by that is, if you take, and I'm normally reticent to have IRL analogies, analogies that try and pick a real life thing to explain technology. But if you take your house, how much physical security is reasonable? All right, well, I should lock my doors. Yeah, let's start with that. All right, someone throws a brick through your window. Well, was that a reasonable amount of security, or should you have bars on your windows? I don't want to have bars on my windows. It'd be bloody miserable. Should you have possibly had an alarm system as well? Should that have maybe head back to base? Now, that might depend on a combination of the risk of where you are and then the impact of someone getting into your house. Maybe in a high crime area, your risk assessment is different. Maybe you have a lot of valuable stuff in your house that people could take. Your risk assessment is different. And the point I'm making is that as it relates to data breaches, there is always going to be a point at which someone who is sufficiently motivated and sufficiently well-resourced and sufficiently skilled will get through the security. Did Park Mobile, if we were to look at it today, that day before the data breach, did they have a reasonable set of security practices in place? And the reason I'm going down this path is I don't like the idea of a pitchfork-wielding brigade of data breach victims who've had really no tangible impact that you could reliably attribute back to this one incident, going to town on an organization who then has to spend up big on lawyers. And the reason why is because so many times, as soon as there's a data breach and I start contacting an organization, I get to deal with lawyers who see this on the radar, lawyers who see potential class actions, and they act in a way which is prioritizing preserving the company. And very often that is at odds to prioritizing the individual data breach victims. Now, I've got so many examples of this where I'll get in touch with the company and I'll very quickly get a response from a lawyer. My video just stopped again, didn't it? I knew it would happen. Let's stop and start that again. Deactivate. Activate. Maybe it was this one. It was a video. Oh, it's that one. Deactivate that. Activate. All right, now it'll come back. So I'm very often seeing this where I just get a very standoffish response, and then you see long lead times while lawyers figure out how to position their messaging and respond to me in a way that minimizes the likely harm later on from class actions like this. Now, all the while, that lead time means that your data is out there floating around. It means that your passwords, which often aren't bcrypt hashed, they're like one of the ones we'll talk about today, MD5, they're floating around, they're getting abused, and the window for proper negative ramifications on individuals is getting bigger and bigger. Now, I'll tell you a story without naming the agency, but I visited an agency recently, a law enforcement agency, a very important, significant one that everybody knows of. And I've had similar discussions with others where I've said, look, one of my biggest challenges at the moment is disclosure, getting an organization to acknowledge that there's been a data breach and act promptly. And what fascinated me is these agencies are like, yeah, we have the same problem. I'm like, well, what do you mean you have the same problem? Like, don't you just bang on the door and show your badge and they let you in and, disclosure is done? They're like, no, like we get confronted by lawyers because there's this consistent arse covering in part due to the fact that people just go to town on them legally after data breaches. And the thing that bugs me is that the individuals that are doing this are largely uneducated in this space of data breach world. And what I mean by that is that they're probably not aware, for example, that their data has been exposed in many, many different places. This is just one more of them. Attributing harm back to this particular incident is extraordinarily hard. And they're definitely unaware that they're going to get $1 in 25-cent increments. And that's consistently the outcome. So it just bugs me that the resources of the corporate victim of a data breach, Park Mobile in this case, need to get directed towards covering their ass and preserving shareholder value. And then the lawyers bringing these frivolous cases are the ones getting rich. I just think that is a really negative space to be in for everyone. That's my high horse. That's my 2 cents. Let me check the comments. That's frustrating. Aaron didn't get a email about Plex data breach. I got one. Lots of other people got one. Still got emails overnight from people going, hey, have you seen this? Like me says, sometimes that data is not even $1. I put a question on Twitter where there's kind of nobody left anyway. I don't know why I do it. And I said, like, what value would you put on your data? If someone came along and said, give me these 5 things, how much money would you want in exchange for? You'd change your password straight away, wouldn't you? Because a bunch of this, email address, name, phone number, is public domain data. Depending on where you are in the world and depending on the structure it's on, license plate might be as well. Password, if you use a password manager, which 90% of the people in this didn't anyway, then it kind of doesn't matter. For the most part, it's very benign classes of data. George is asking, anyone get an email about a breach at Clarins? I retweeted about a breach at Clarins today. So Clarins, this is Australia. Where are we down here? Dear customer, we've been notified of an unauthorized. Why is Clarins Australia putting a Z in their unauthorized? We've been notified of an unauthorized download by a third party of files containing contact details of some of our clients. Our technical teams acted immediately to address the issue. Of course they did. And the incident has been contained. You're receiving this message because you may be one of the clients concerned. Now, why do they keep putting line rates? I just dropped this into the in the chat here. You can read along with me. It's oddly formatted. Stuff like that. The reason it bugs me is because I'm wondering what was the process in which this was created. Security of your data and the trust you place in us are the utmost importance. We want to reassure you that no financial information such as bank accounts or credit cards and no passwords were compromised in this instance. Okay, that's good. Data potentially affected may include names, email addresses, phone numbers, and dates of birth, because apparently you need your date of birth in order to buy makeup. Or so what Clarence does. As a precaution, we recommend you treat with caution any unsolicited calls, emails, and text messages, particularly if they appear to relate to payment information or passwords. But you just said no payment information. What I find interesting about this, every one of these notices gives the same advice. Treat all emails as suspicious, etc. That's what you should do anyway, even without the data breach. Data breach will not, and this is why, in many ways, these incidents don't really change anything when it's just these classes of data. Obviously, changing your password, but they said no passwords. Why do they say there's no financial data or no passwords? Be especially careful of any text messages related to payment info or password. Anyway, just feels like generic cookie cutter information. So yeah, I had seen that. That's there on the threads. Let's see around the comments. Aaron says lawyers are great if they are on your side and you win the case. Yeah, you get $1. They're definitely on your side. That's a terrible ROI. For everyone, how much of your time does $1 buy? That's ridiculous. Like, if you were to put any sort of ROI on that, like, is it? Yeah. It's probably doesn't buy enough time for you to sit there and fill out all the forms required for you to get your $1, which you then need to spend in 25-cent increments as a discount. You don't even get the cash. It's crazy. G'day, Richard. Thank you for joining. Stephanie's here. Very good. Thomas says American lawyers, yes, but we see a lot of it in the UK as well. And I'm pretty sure in the blog post I wrote about ambulance chasing class action lawyers, I gave UK examples. It is happening everywhere. I'm definitely seeing it with Australian companies as well. I've seen some ridiculous behaviour from lawyers for Australian companies who've had breaches. I can't say exactly which ones, but it's mind-numbingly stupid. Eddie's in Kenya. I've been to Kenya. Cool. It's the only place in Africa I've been. There you go. Aaron says, do you think passkey is going to be a pain to manage without a password manager? I think it'll be fragmented without a password manager because you're going to end up putting them in your iCloud keychain, then they won't work on Windows. You're going to put them in Chrome, and then it's going to be harder to access in your other apps. I think that managing that secret should be abstracted away from any implementation of single operating system or client. Transportability, I think, is an absolute maximum importance. And that's really confusing for most people. All right, what else has happened here? There's a data breach of a website in Sweden I can't pronounce. Sharp told me what it was. Miljadata? Something like that. This one was ransomware. And this one, it's just one of these ones. Yeah, people go, where do you get data breaches from? Randos. I got up and some rando had emailed me about this data breach. Swedish rando. And this is a system supplier that seems to have been used really extensively in government and education, ransomware victim. This person reached out and said, look, this is in the news. Apparently the data, why does that camera keep doing that? I'm going to have to find a permanent solution to this. And I don't know what it's going to be. Deactivate. Oh. Activate. Or maybe, oh no, now I have to go down. So I've got a video capture device and I've also got a Sony a6400 in OBS. It's not an OBS problem. I've seen the same thing happen in Zoom. So maybe I just need to replace that Elgato cam link. I'll find a way. Anywho, Swedish data breach. So the person contacted me, linked me through to a story, said apparently this data, they named the ransomware crew, so the data's gone public. 60 seconds later, I found the Onion website, found all the data, 870,000 individuals, a mix of different files and data, dates of birth, genders, names, physical addresses, email addresses, government issued IDs. And apparently in Sweden, your government issued ID contains both your date of birth and your gender. So if you disclose the IDs, you now know two other attributes of the person, and it's sort of limited ability to do much for gender, but date of birth, of course, is often used for knowledge-based authentication, and the phone numbers. So all of that is very, very much out there. I noticed someone said, I think it's a Swedish news or media outlet has created a search site where you can put an email address in and see if you're in that data breach. What a great idea that is. If only there was a way of doing that didn't just cover one Swedish data breach. So they're there. Now, if you're a regular to porn sites and you like using the forums there to comment, you might have been in the free, I'm sure that's no one here, you might have been in the free ones data breach. Well, there were about 5,000 Have I Been Pwned subscribers who are in there. This is a really old one, and look, at every now and then something pops up and it's like, yeah, look, this was from ages ago, but I have that data sitting there, I never processed it. Or I literally have a massive prioritized backlist based on the number of records of data that have been sent from various locations that has been categorized. And when I get a period where there's not as many new data breaches, the Swedish one aside, I just go back through the backlog. This one here is an adult, I'll just read the Have I Been Pwned bit. Adult website, free ones had 960,000 email addresses breached from their forum in 2017. Data also included username, IP address, and salted MD5 password hashes. 85% of those people were already in Have I Been Pwned. Now, that's not great. That's obviously flagged as a sensitive data breach. That does very directly associate someone's email address with a porn site. I don't know, like what more can I say about that? The fact that there are more than 5,000 email addresses in there that are our direct subscribers does go some way to speaking again to the fact that people will associate their real email address with sites that they probably don't want to have it associated with. We sent many, I think it was about 2,000 notifications to subscribers monitoring domains. They're usually corporates. So there's going to be a bunch of corporates who are suddenly like, okay, Jimbo in the warehouse is in this one. Might have to go and chat to Jimbo. But mind you, that was 8 years ago. Maybe Jimbo's moved on. Incidentally, I couldn't find any disclosure notice from free ones. There is absolutely no doubt whatsoever that this data did come from them. There are other references of it out there as well. If they did do disclosure, at best, they would have notified just the individuals, just their email addresses. And I say at best because there's usually not a requirement to do it unless you feel there's going to be a threat to the rights and freedoms of individuals or likelihood to cause serious harm. Depending on where you are in the world, your regulatory regime has a different carve-out that exempts you from actually having to let people know. So at best, and I think morally at best, you would let people know. But that doesn't let the other party involved here that has some skin in the game know, and that's the organisation that owns the email address. So when we look at those thousands of organizations that got emails yesterday about people using free ones, if you're using Jimbo at acmecore.com to go and comment on porn, that's probably something acmecore.com wants to know about. Now, there's a question of, assuming they're doing that on the job. I can't imagine you go home and then you use your work email address to comment on a porn site. How do they do that at work? So maybe there are no filtering controls on that particular website, which is interesting. But it's the sort of thing an organization wants to know about. Now, adult content is the obvious one. Something like Dropbox is another really interesting one. So if an organization has people in the Dropbox data breach and Dropbox is, with the organizational email address, and Dropbox is not part of the formal organizational cloud model, for want of a better term. Everything should be in OneDrive, shouldn't be in Dropbox. That's something that they really want to know about. So I just think it's interesting that the organization that owns the email address that is used in these data breaches, they will never be told by the organization who's been breached. And that's where one of these really, I think, strong value propositions for Have I Been Pwned remains, even when organizations do their disclosure well. All right, so those comments. That's mostly conversation between you guys. That's fine. What else was left? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's what I got to do. Remember, if you were here last week, in this live stream last week, and I was talking about using Home Assistant to have the house talk and tying it into the AI, because I was increasingly getting AI to describe what is in a photo from the Ubiquiti cameras and then explain it to the house. So, when someone rings the doorbell, the AI would talk and it would say, there's someone standing at the door with a black hat and a package. And you go, oh, okay, well, that's the Sparky electrician came around the other day. So, okay, well, that's him. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if I just got it to do it in my voice? And I sort of had this epiphany as I was talking on the video. And I was like, I need to do that. I need to do that. So as soon as I finished that video last week, I did this. Now I'm going to explain how I've done this, and then I'll go through and I will actually play this. Now this is a script. So first thing is, you may have heard of AI. It's doing a lot of pretty wild stuff, a lot of useless crap, and a lot of really interesting, valuable things, and everything in between as well. And I would argue that this is somewhere in between. Now, you can use a service like 11 Labs. So 11 Labs is what I've used here to do text-to-speech. And I was looking at 11 Labs, I want to say about a year ago, for Home Assistant, because it has a much more natural sounding text-to-speech voice. So if you want to, for example, speak through the speakers when the mail arrives. At the moment, when someone puts a letter in the letterbox, the Sonos says, you've got a package or mail. And it can sound very like jilted, jilted. It sounds weird, like a computer. But 11 Labs was always really smooth, and I just had trouble making it work. And I think I mentioned last week, this was one case where ChatGPT actually really helped me fix the problem I had with getting 11 Labs to work in Home Assistant. So it fixed that problem. But one of the things you can do with 11 Labs is you can create your own voice, and you can give it all sorts of prompts to create a voice, or you can get it to create your voice so that you can then create new content with your voice. So what I did is I uploaded hours and hours of this weekly video. So I thought I will take literally my voice and my tone from this video. I uploaded it all into 11 Labs. I paid them some money. I think it's like $30 a month or something. It's like 30 Park Mobile settlements per month, which has seemed a bit pricey. So I don't know if I'm going to continue this, but I uploaded it all and it created my voice. And I can then, in Home Assistant, tell it to use the Troy Hunt voice for all the announcements. Now, I should have got this ready beforehand, but let's actually go and get this to work. So my event type here, I've got this in I called it Hunt TTS is my script here. So let's see if can I just go straight into YAML mode? I'm actually looking here. Oh no, actions is what I'm after. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Are you ready for this? We were recently travelling to faraway lands, doing meet and greets with Gov partners, when one of them posed an interesting idea. What if people from our part of the world could see a link through to our local resource on data breaches provided by the Gov? That's pretty cool, isn't it? You can control things like speed and variability. We now have that voice describing who is at the door when the doorbell rings. And it is freaking Charlotte the hell out. And apparently I need to change it. I think it's hilarious, personally. I also think that might be what I use to speak back through the doorbell when someone rings the door and we're not home and I want to elicit who they are so I know if we've been visited by a real estate agent or someone selling the word of God or any of that. I want to know who these people are. So I have an automation which speaks and sort of says, how can I help you? And then they sort of explain it. And then it's like, thank you, bye-bye. And at least I have that recording. So I've captured who it is and we can play that back. But that's nice. Actually, I just know Stephen said he did a POC automation having Richard Attenborough describe the scene as someone rings my doorbell. It was hilarious. Now, someone else asked me to do it. Might have been Charlotte, asked me to do Richard Attenborough. So, Stephen, tell me where you did that. Like, where did you get that voice from. Because this does actually raise other interesting points. And as I said before, a lot of what I'm doing with stuff like home automation is not because I think that this is going to be life-changing to have my voice describe who's at the door, but it helps you understand the technology more, and it helps you understand some of the social ramifications around it as well, particularly AI. Because the obvious question is, if there's hours and hours and hours of my voice out there, what's to stop anyone else going and getting those recordings, uploading them to 11 Labs, and then turning it into effectively what we've just seen here, and then using that for social engineering? Now, the answer as it relates specifically to 11 Labs is after you upload all that content, it gives you a randomly generated prompt that you have to read with your voice, and it obviously just goes, all right, is this the same person? Are they authorizing us to use this voice? That's the controls they put in place. Of course, there's no controls that are going to be in place when someone wants to use it maliciously. They won't be able to use 11 Labs in that way, but there will be other services, I'm sure there already are other services, that can take that same content and not have the guardrails about checking whether or not you give consent for your voice to be used that way. And this, of course, is one of the big problems with AI, generating, whether it be images or videos or voice, from other people without consent. Because suddenly, this whole sort of threat of impersonation becomes really, really real. So I think that's a really interesting ramification. Now, I was just thinking, I'll copy and paste a piece of text here that wouldn't be cached, wouldn't have already been read. I'll put that in, I'll get it to read it. So here's the lead time, sort of in seconds, from sending that prompt up to the cloud, getting 11 Labs to then convert that prompt into my voice and read it back. We'll set a timer on this. I haven't actually tried this. I'm guessing it's about 5 seconds, which does say something about the ability to actually use it for conversational purposes. 3, 2, 1, go. The Australian Signals Directorate offers guidance on responding to data breaches, along with links to additional local support resources for Australians. Damn, that's less than 2 seconds. That's pretty good. Is that a fluke? Let's do one more. Let's take a bigger sentence. I've just got the Park Mobile data breach stuff open here. I'll paste that in, excuse me, in a Home Assistant here. Let's just take out that apostrophe, which is causing problems. Let's try it again. 3, 2, 1, go. In March 2021, the mobile parking app service Park Mobile suffered a data breach which exposed 21 million customers' personal data. The impacted data included that's enough now.
Names, phone numbers, vehicle license plates, and passwords stored as bcrypt hashes. The following month, the data appeared on a public hacking forum where it was extensively redistributed.
Fun times. What have we got in the comments here? Okay, so someone's going to slack me the Richard Attenborough stuff. That'd be good. Thomas says, I'm surprised I've still not added convincing pauses between sentences instead of just, basically just talking like it's all one sentence. Now, this is, again, something which you do have some configurability over. As I fix my video again. I've got to find a way to solve this. Oh, well. It really doesn't want to reactivate now. No, now it does. Okay. It's my next job today. Fix broken stuff. There's some configurability. So I need to go back and have a look at the 11 Labs configuration to make sure that I can get it to read it. In fact, we can do this together because I can read it back to the speakers. If I go into 11 Labs, turn my volume up again. And then we can take, excuse me, I'll take that bit of text from about the Australian Signals Directorate, which is on the Have I Been Pwned breach page. I can go into Voices in 11 Labs. I can search through Voices. So if I search for Troy Hunt, here it is. Oh no, what's that? Troy, Mystery and Thriller and Noir. Where's my voice? Am I logged in? See, here's the other thing. What if they have a breach and all my trained voice comes out? That'd be a problem. Playground, text to speech. Okay. So, I'll just read their text. Let's generate speech. So it's by playing with tech like this that firstly, you come to understand it better. And secondly, you find genuinely impactful use cases. That felt pretty good. I can slow that speed down. I can make it much more stable. I'll put no style exaggeration and I'll regenerate it, see what it sounds like now. But that's really not the point. It's by playing with tech like this that firstly, you come to understand it better. And secondly, you find genuinely impactful use cases. Right, so that's quite different. So I think, why did that sound so much better than what I just had through Home Assistant? It's all using 11 Labs. I make it less stable. I make it very high similarity, put more style exaggeration. Let's try this. But that's really not the point. It's by playing with tech like this that firstly, you come to understand it better. And secondly, you find genuinely impactful use cases. You know, I find it really doesn't pause very well at commas. So there's a comma after the word firstly, and there's a comma after the word secondly. So let's play that again. But that's really not the point. It's by playing with tech like this that firstly, you come to understand it better. And secondly, you find genuinely impactful use cases. Now that model is 11 Labs Multilingual 2. Can I try that? Try V3 Alpha. Ooh. What's new in V3? Our most expressive text-to-speech model. Okay, let's try that. Ready?
But that's really not the point. It's by playing with tech like this that, firstly, you come to understand it better, and secondly, you find genuinely impactful use cases.
Well, it's not me, but they got the pauses right. Can I change it to me? Let's try it again.
But that's really not the point. It's by playing with tech like
Who the hell's that?
That firstly, you come to understand it.
That's not me at all. All right, what about, there's actually 2 generations. That's generation 1, generation 2.
But that's really not the point. It's by playing with tech like this that...
Okay, well, that one's shit. All right. As I was saying in this comment here, none of this is the point. It's about playing with it and just like seeing what happens because it's interesting. Oh man, I'm going to blow a lot of time on this, aren't I? Let me look at the last comments and then I'm going to wrap this up. It's just fun. Like me says, that already happened with OpenAI and Scarlett Johansson, where her voice was kind of stolen. Look, we've seen it happen in many cases, particularly with things like deepfakes. Like we know this is going to be a massive issue. Any one of these people that AI voice would be used against for framing or defamation would usually already be out there in public, to be honest. Most of these influential people have their voice online. Yeah, they do. They do. Like that cat is out of the bag, right? Like you can't get that content back. So that the issue then is obviously more about the controls that put in place. 11 Labs is, clearly doing the right thing there, verifying voice. I guess also part of it's going to be, like, we probably already have the legal constructs to deal with impersonation and misrepresentation, but just have to see how messed up it all gets. James, here's us talking about home automation. You got a third reality switch in. I was very impressed by the onboarding. Can you send me a link to that, James? I've not heard about that one. That sounds kind of fun. Now everyone's going to be wondering what is actually me and what is not me. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up there. I've got a gazillion things I've got to do. Today, my task today is I'm going to start with my real voice creating some demo material for Have I Been Pwned. I literally set up the YouTube channel yesterday, going to create short video demos on lots of things that we kept getting asked. How does this work or how does that work? I'm going to start recording that. Hopefully I'll get the first one of those up today. And also Stefan's done some good work around making sure that anyone can use our integration test domains to add to their dashboard, write API queries against. I'm hoping it's just going to make it much, much easier for people to see how to use the service and to get up and running without having to have a subscription as well. So that's my job today. I'm going to wrap it up there, and I'll talk to you hopefully about those demos next week. See ya.